And so our next thread is titled Apathy in Marriage. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we go. My husband and I have been married almost 8 years, together for over a decade. We have been the best of friends. We fell in love when I was only 16 years old, and it's been us against the world ever since. We have 5 children, ages 5 and under. I'm a stay-at-home mom and homeschool our oldest. It's a lot of work taking care of these babies, and it takes everything in me. We have no family nearby and only a few friends, no babysitter currently, and I get 0 breaks from the kids ever. My husband is a financial advisor, entrepreneur. He makes a decent living, but we're definitely in the building phases of his business. So money stress is still moderate, but we're comfortable. The issue is he works a lot, like a lot. He'll be gone from dawn until after the kids' bedtime or later most nights of the week, with work things taking over weekend days at times too. It's been hard, but we both agreed to invest the time apart and his attention to making a good life for our family. The problem is, I've begun to grow distant. He's so sweet when he's home and very loving and attentive, but I feel like I've had to go through this awful metamorphosis of learning to do life without him, and now he's just a stranger at best, a nuisance at worst. I know it sounds like I'm a monster. I feel horrible, but I think in order to survive the loneliness and stress of so many children and pregnancies and long days alone, I've adapted in a negative way. I used to miss him so much. Sometimes I was depressed and non-functional. Now I do great without him and not great with him around. When he's home, he just riles up the kids. They're excited that daddy is home. I get it. He disrupts the routine. He requires so much attention because he's normal and loves me and wants to talk after being apart for so long. I don't know what to do. I dread his phone calls and texts, and when he comes home, because I know I'm off and I can't help it. I don't want to hurt him, and I want to fix whatever my issue is. He and I both deserve more. On the one hand, this is actually a pretty sad thread. It's kind of sad to see the type of transformation that someone's marriage can take, even though she says, he's a really amazing husband and they're really happy. They were really happy together. But on the other hand, I actually think this is a really positive thread as well, because it shows that she recognizes that there's a problem. She understands what's causing the problem, which is how long he is working. She paints this picture where they're both actually pretty much on the same page. It's not that he started working crazy hours without her agreement or without her knowledge, without them being on the same page. So they talked about it, they discussed it, they together agreed that he would make this sacrifice in the short term for the long-term health and financial security of their family. And that's actually a pretty beautiful thing. It's pretty amazing when people manage to do that. That's not 100% perfect kind of makes a lot of sense as well. The idea of having 5 kids under 5 years old in a house at the same time and having to manage all of that as a parent, as one single parent by herself 90% of the time is unbelievably stressful. I don't know how she does it. I couldn't imagine doing it. So all of it makes sense. It also makes sense why she has these periods where she's like, okay, you know what? I have a routine figured out when he isn't in the picture, but when he is in the picture, then suddenly the whole routine changes and we have to adapt to that. And because he isn't here so often, this is taking a lot of adjustment time from me. So honestly, the problem actually makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that this might be one of those perfect examples of the types of ebbs and flows that can happen in a marriage. And these periods of time, when everything is really great and awesome and you're really happy and excited and everything's going well. And then these little periods where you're just stressed out and you have a lot to handle and there's a lot on your plate and you're a little bit depressed and you feel lonely, and your relationship, because you haven't invested any time in your relationship in a long time, is starting to suffer as a result of that. This all just happens naturally because you just have different seasons in life and different things come up and then different things go away, and you have to learn to adapt to that as a married couple and as a family. So it's a very believable, very relatable type of scenario and a perfect example of a fixable problem. So I think that how I would deal with this problem if I were in her shoes would be to try to find an occasion, or to ask my husband for an occasion to sit down and talk to him and then say, hey, look, I know we made this decision together and I thought I could do it and I was happy to do it, but honestly, I'm really struggling right now and I think I need some short-term changes to try and make things a little bit different for me and to make my experience a little bit different and to invest a little bit more time into our relationship, so that we are on the up again, that I don't feel like I'm so alone all the time and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm pretty sure that that would go well because he sounds like a really great husband and this sounds like a pretty great marriage. And the period of time in your life where you will have 5 kids who are under the age of 5 years old is a short time. It is not going to go on forever. And as kids get older, they also get easier to manage and easier to parent, hopefully, for most people. And they require a little bit less of your energy and of your time. So this is also a season that will hopefully end, and hopefully their marriage will come through it a lot stronger. I think this is a really positive thread on the whole. Some of the comments about this, I'll skip a little bit. She says, I realize getting the business going takes priority, but does he really need to work so much? Would having 1 or 2 less late nights a week set you all back that much? She says, I'm just asking, not trying to be sarcastic or anything. I ask because your children are not going to be little forever, and this is time he can't get back. It sounds like a good heart-to-heart would be a step in the right direction. Trust me, communication is key. I wish I had better communication after a failed marriage of 13 years. And being together for 17 years. Resentment will destroy a marriage. Good luck, and I wish you the best. What's really nice about this is it doesn't sound like OP is actually resentful. It sounds like she's just disengaged a little bit. And I would probably argue that that's more of a self-protection mechanism, just because she felt lonely. And the best way to try and move on from that is to focus on the things that you can control and to deal with that. OP says, thanks for your advice. I'm sorry to hear about your marriage. And then she says, I know we need to have a deep talk about this. We haven't had much time together where we're not both falling asleep on the couch at the end of the day. Something has to change because I'm honestly scared. I don't want to feel this way. And then OP here also says, I'm scared to jeopardize everything we've sacrificed and worked for by taking away his attention from work. I suppose there's no point in working so hard if there's nothing to come home to, but it's easier said than done. And this is exactly one of those circumstances where you really have to look at, okay, what are the compromises that we're making? To what extent are we sacrificing way beyond what is necessary versus to what extent is this absolutely necessary? And if it is necessary, then how long is this going to be the case? I think sometimes you just have to look at your priorities in life. And if your priority is your marriage and your family, then even though you may have to slow things down a little bit on the business front, it would make sense to take just a little bit of a step back and to try and rebalance the time that you're investing. But it's also good to have these periods of time when you say, okay, we're going to go all in on the business, and that's what we're going to really focus on. So it's just a question of talking about it and figuring out what the right priorities are for your relationship at that point in time. And when you have 5 kids who are super young, then probably this is not the best time to go 100% all in on the business. Yeah, pretty much everyone suggests, hey, you can talk about it and try to figure out a different compromise. This person says, if you try talking to your husband about setting some days and times aside for the family, he sounds like a good husband whose only mistake here is working too much and taking away from family time. You say he's loving and attentive to you and the kids when he's home. It's great that when he's home, he's present, but it does no good if you've built up resentment. Take time and have a talk with him because communication is the only thing that will fix it. And then OP says, which I find a really interesting comment. She says, my concerns and problems are valid, but I know that some of this is postpartum hormones acting crazy too. Breastfeeding a 5-month-old through a growth spurt can throw everything out of whack. So it seems also as if she has enough self-reflection and enough self-awareness to recognize that sometimes the low that you experience is also a result of the circumstances that you're experiencing in that particular moment in time as well, and that your situation will naturally start feeling a little bit better the moment that you're a little bit less stressed out. But yes, for once, this is a marriage that is 100% fixable, and hopefully, I hope for both of them that they manage to sit down and they manage to figure out what the best way of dealing with it and moving forward together as a couple is.